Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered platform, y'all. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, joined by our guy, Cole Thompson. Give him the follow at Mr. Cole Thompson. You hear the lightning and thunder out there. That's why we are inside for the afternoon, I'm assuming, here in Atlanta. But we're reacting to Billy Napier's opening press conference as he was the third coach to step on the podium today on day 3 of the SEC Media Days in Dallas. Cole, just initially, the word it jumps out. I just start out with a word and then throw it to you. It's just confidence. And we talked a little bit off air. It exuded kind of the same confidence I talked to from some of the other people on staff or support staff members, no other full-time coaches, but just support staff members. And a lot of it is, I think they all love Billy Napier. A lot of that whole staff came from Louisiana Lafayette. I don't care what people call them now, Louisiana. It's always been Louisiana Lafayette. That's kind of what came off to me is they're confident in what they've done. They think this is their best roster. But as me and you talked about, you are what your record says you are. So that is going to ultimately determine the outcome and the future of Billy Napier is what is his record after 2024. What do you think?
Now, how dare you say you are what your record says you are? That is two different ideologies. I do not buy into that notion whatsoever because that is false. But unfortunately, we do judge you based on
athletic department. Athletic directors agree with that.
And especially if your athletic director is no longer making the calls anymore, you also are on thin ice regardless because it's a new person in command. But that's neither here nor there. What this really comes down to is you watch the way that Napier carried himself. I thought it was a little bit different compared to Shane Beamer. Beamer kind of came in with a little bit of that hothead mentality where we know that we're underrated. We know that we're going to be underappreciated. You can put us down in the polls. And I think that's one way to go about it, where you're trying to rally the troops and say, last season wasn't what defined us. And you know that it's true because of we've overexceeded expectations to begin our tenure. That's one thing that you got to remember about South Carolina. They hit the over on both first 2 years underneath Beamer, where it hasn't been that way with Napier. But Napier also has said on multiple occasions, this is a process. Trust the process. We're moving in the right direction of the process. And it's year 3. And year 3 oftentimes will be a make or break season for what you believe will be the future of a program. And to have that type of poised demeanor of saying, we know who we are as a program. We know what we like about ourselves as a program. We are confident in ourselves. I thought what was really interesting was how he was able to deliver stats on players during his middle introduction press conference to kind of be like, listen, I know what the word is around town. We have the most daunting schedule in all of college football. In fact, college football Satan himself could not come up with this.
Cole, not to interrupt you here. Do you agree? You said schedule, so I'm asking this. Do you kind of agree with Roman Harper, Cole Kublik that it's a logo kind of schedule? Or are you like, no, I think it's a fair – because I think the whole schedule in November for Florida could be playoff teams if you want to be honest.
I think it's logo at the very beginning. I don't think at the very end.
I see what they're talking about. But I do think, all those teams are damn good. Georgia, Texas, LSU is probably the big question mark out of that.
But even then, you still got to sit here and say, well, what about the teams at the very beginning, like UCF? What about Miami? Are they logo teams, or are they actually going to prove that they have finally fixed the flaws down in the state? What about Florida State at the very end of the year? I know they're coming off of an undefeated season, but where do they rank now without Jordan Travis?
A&M's an interesting team.
Again, early part of the season. Tennessee, you've had their number for years. Is that a logo team, or is
Miami,
that a playoff team? So it's one of those things where it's a bit of a middle ground. What I liked about Napier's press conference especially was the stats, where he brought up, I know what the people are saying from the outside, but look at how many stats we have. How many starts we have as a complete roster, top to bottom. Bringing up Graham Mertz, how this was a kid that immediately hit the ground running when he arrived in Gainesville, talking highly of his demeanor in the locker room, his ability to basically go toe-to-toe with coaches in the huddle. Whenever they're in film study, he's asking the right questions. He's doing his due diligence, calling out players like Montrell Johnson. To me, that's a big sign. He understands what is the outside noise saying, what is the overall feel around the program versus what it really should be moving forward. And so for that standpoint, I think that's a good sign of confidence. It's a different version of what you saw from Shane Beamer, but it still is a quality version of what you want.
No, you're right. You can tell he likes this team. I think there's no denying. I don't think that's some front. I think he likes this team. I think their staff likes it. You can tell he's high, like you said, Shamar James, Montrell Johnson, Graham Mertz, the 3 reps that he brought in. I think they like this team. He said it's a player-led team. He likes the team. Like you said, you mentioned the start thing. I jotted it. It's 463 starts, 17 starters, 4th in the SEC in returning production. Mentioned competitive depth. I had a key thing I took too, though, Cole, is that they made a strength and conditioning coach change. And actually, the guy they let go is one of my buddies, Mark Hockey. Worked with him twice. They hired Tyler Miles, who I think was over the whole athletics department, strength and conditioning, athletic performance, and they just moved him, or he probably moved to football because they asked him to. So he kind of got a promotion. Said it was a new philosophy. And he even went as far as to say, and I always believe this, but coaches don't really ever mention it. He straight up said it. He's like, I think this could be one of our X factors in this upcoming season. I'm like, damn, you don't really see coaches straight up say that the strength coach, who everybody knows is like, if I was a head coach, it'd be my first hire on staff, honestly, because they're with them more than any other coach on staff, would be the strength and conditioning coach. You're kind of the gatekeeper. You're the key holder to the culture. But he straight up said it. I think this 1 year, we've seen significant increase in our speed and mass. I think we're gonna be much better because of that. I was like, well, damn, do you get better in strength and conditioning? I've seen it. It's about a 1 to 2 game difference, probably, if you want to be completely honest. And I think they got rid of hockey a little bit too because they were having injuries. But I thought that was something that he mentioned. But again, like you said, it's just going to go back to he didn't say he articulated well, said everything you want to hear, echoed what we've all been hearing. Everybody likes this team. Everybody, like you said, it's going to start up front. Now I want to ask you this, Cole. What would you be saying Florida's win total is? How would you be feeling about the Gators if let's say they flipped schedules with Missouri?
That's the thing. If you flip schedules with Missouri, they have a quarterback. I know they've compared Graham Mertz to
and that's starting. You have to have one. You're right, and they do.
I compare Graham Mertz to mashed potatoes. I don't really care. What that means is it's a complimentary side dish. You put the right pieces around him. Congratulations, you got an award-winning meal. You're never going to mess up mashed potatoes. Graham Mertz, with the way he plays and the way he showed up last year, it's always going to be a positive, in my opinion. So if you have the quarterback, you have a shot. And they have the pieces around him. I like Shamir Dike, the guy they brought in from Wisconsin. I think Elijah Badger comes on in and is an immediate upgrade at the third wide receiver spot. Trey Wilson is a guy that I have been high on since middle of last season. I thought he took over games. They have some running backs. It's not Trevor Etienne, but that doesn't mean that you don't have great Gators in the backfield that could eventually create that same type of mentality. So the defense is really what's going to decide how this game goes. But the schedule, you have Alabama, which, again, I just think that regardless, it's very hard to win in Bryant-Denny Stadium. So you'd be traveling to that game. And you travel to Texas A&M. And already you're playing Texas A&M at home this year. So the schedule flips in certain areas where the Oklahoma game maybe bodes well in your favor. You get Mississippi State. So it's like, that's where I feel better. But you got to remember, this is a team that honestly is going to come out at the end of the year sitting at 7-5. And I would be talking about them probably as if they were a 9-win roster because of a 7-5 record with that schedule. Even if the logos are just logos, let's say they all do live up to expectations. That was what you would consider a playoff team for some rosters. They would have the number of quality wins on the radar.
You're talking about Florida's schedule, right?
Florida's schedule. So, why would I not be saying that they had a Missouri schedule? Because, again, you have the pieces. I like the situation this is going in. And sometimes this is where my brain goes whenever I hear people talk about the scheduling. And we're a problem with it. Media people in general will look way too much into the wins and loss record, and they don't look into the strength of record. They don't look into the strength of schedule. They don't look into rosters. They don't look into injuries. They don't look into depth. And Florida could have all that at its disposal in a positive light, but it also could be a reason why Florida does downfall this year if they don't have those necessary resources. So it's a lot of things that go against Florida. When you look at Florida on paper, I actually think they're better than advertised.
Yeah, I think this is going to be their best team under Billy. Honestly, he's probably getting a little year too short. If we want to be completely honest, this will be year 3. He really should get 4 years. I think anybody realistically would tell you, I think he should get another year. But that's not the world we probably live in if they have a losing.
Well, hold up, Dave, real fast. You think you should get 4? You should think you should get a 4th year. Are you saying that he should get a 4th year regardless of what happens, or
no? I'm saying if he goes 6-6, I think he should get another year. He may
not. That's a get in my opinion. Like for me, 4-8, but quality 4-8 play where you're in the 4th quarter and you're winning a game and you lose by a game-winning field goal, or you come back from down 21 and lose by 3. That's where you have the conversation. Do you bring it back? 6-6, I think safe.
Yeah, I think 6-6, but again, you never know with some of these guys. If it's an ugly loss to Florida State in the year. you never know. These teams these fan bases and donors will get tired of that. But it goes back to, is Strickland even going to be there for Billy Napier? Not many coaches get third football hire. Not many ADs get third football hire. I mean, that'd be a little obscene. But I mean, I think he's got a good plan. And if the Florida admin's got to finally get on the same page. I mean, Urban Meyer got tired of the crap at the end of his era. Dan Mullen, Jim McElwain, any of those people you talk to is like, compliance is out to get. Everybody's got to be on the same page. So that's why I always give Billy a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But you're right. You get in that 4 or 5 win range. I don't know. The losing record, I probably think he's gone. If I had to bet if he's gone, does he deserve to be gone? It's another conversation, like I was talking about. But I think he's gone if he has a losing record. But the thing you didn't hear him bring up. No one really asked him about him calling the plays on offense this year.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
He was going on. He essentially said he was going down with the ship doing that. Right, wrong, or indifferent with his guy Rob Sell. But nobody asked him about that, which was interesting. I feel like some of the guys asked the same question back to back about what has he done differently with staff changes and stuff to make them better. But I thought somebody would ask that question and no one did. So I was interested.
You know what I appreciate is that when you look at last year, you had a guy who called plays nonstop. He was an offensive guru. He was everything that he wanted. He wanted to run the offense, and he decided to hire an OC. And the second he hired an OC, everything transcended overnight. They ended up having their best season in school history in the SEC. They are now a favorite to go to the college football playoff. And the OC's back there. And it's Eli Drinkowitz. And you remember the way that we talked about Eli last year and how he was not afraid to be combative and call out Dennis Dodd for putting him on a hot seat? Well, it's not the same way with Billy because of Billy is on the hot seat for a lot of people, but it's a reverse 180. Now, instead of having an offense coordinator, he just says, I'm going to call the plays. And if my offense fails at this point, I'm going down swinging, but at least I did it my way.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if you really asked, like, what kind of quality OC could you get? What kind of quality OC would have left to go take that job, knowing maybe you get one more year? Similar to if Shamie Beamer gets another year heading into 25, a lot of people will probably be like, well, this is kind of the year. Like, so, and when Ray Tanner makes him fire all his coordinators, like, well, what kind of quality coordinators are you going to get in a year? Most people expect it to kind of be your last. So that'd be interesting from Billy from that perspective. But yeah, I thought somebody would ask him about that, how he planned to utilize like Eugene, Trey Wilson, and them a little differently. But no, I mean, I'm with you. I don't feel any difference. I mean, I think, again, I keep saying it. I think they're confident. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I think you told me if I'm wrong, Cole. I think most people that know football, not everybody, but I think most people that know football are like, yeah, Florida's going to be better. Like, I think it's their best roster. I think on top to bottom, I think you'd be crazy not to say, yeah, I think this is probably Billy's best team. Like,
the way that I view Florida is they are going to be like an old car that is completely refurbished on the inside. It's still intact. They got great leather interior. They got the steering wheel that still works. It still is really, really nice. But on the outside, there's a couple of dents. There's a couple of creaks. It looks a little bit rusty. And so you don't have a good appreciation for it because of the interior has been kept up, but the exterior maybe doesn't look the exact same. The exterior is being
people don't see the interior every day. But it's like, and that's exterior everybody sees.
And that's a thing because if you look at this roster, I don't think without any question, this is his best roster he's had. It's a top 15 recruiting class on top of that. I think that the fact that they brought up DJ Lagway was a really interesting point because I think that there is a conversation that's going on internally with boosters that Lagway is a lot like Arch Manning. And what I mean by that is Manning, as much as Texas fans want to believe he is committed to the Longhorns, he's not. He's committed to Steve Sarkisian. He's committed to that coach because that's what the Manning family has always done. They've been committed to a coach that goes to a program. It was always David Cutcliffe. It's Steve Sarkisian. So I think that DJ Lagway being a part of Florida, I think that there is going to be a motion where they are going to give him some type of package to get him on the field and play. And I think that a big reason why Billy may be able to sustain a job for another year is because you hear about all these things behind closed doors of their relationship. He mentioned that after FPI, they were going and sitting down and talking. DEI, they were sitting down and talking. He mentioned that this is a good thing that you're sitting behind Graham for a year, learning the intricacies of the offense, but also learning how to play quarterback in the conference. And the confidence of a kid that I've seen firsthand play at high school level and absolutely balled out and was the best player on the field every single time that he stepped foot, saying, you know what, it's the best thing for me. That might be a reason why you keep Billy. But I do think that there is a lot of conversations that are going to go on with how do we get him involved? What type of sub packages can we put together that allow number 2 to be a number 1 option for us?
No, I 100% agree with you. I think they'll get him in certain packages, and that could be – I think that will have a big say on like if he flashes a little bit and people are like, "How we got to keep this kid," because as we all know, even the casual observers know, if you don't have a quarterback in today's sport, in college or NFL, you don't have a chance to go win big. You're not to go win big in what at most people's expectations are of their team. You're not going. It's the most important job in all of sports, not just football. All of sports. I mean, it's like you said. He could keep his job with 5 wins, and they're like, well, if we maybe lose Lagway, I mean, if we fire Billy, we may lose Lagway too. Like, you're right. I think that's going to have a big telling piece as well. And Billy, for his own job sake, would probably get a little smart to throw him out there and tease that a little bit. Like what?
It would. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that the fact that it's been brought up that they had those conversations, that's a major asset to why they want to play, is because of, at the end of the day, what just happens if I show that I got the quarterback that I handpicked, starting to learn my offense, and he's only going to continue to improve. And you know what the projection is. I mean, everyone knows what the potential is of this kid. Mm-hmm. And now I've seen it in action. You're telling me that you don't want to stick around and see this unfold? And what happens if he's a lot like me? And what happens if he and I are attached to the hip and I'm fired overnight, and immediately as soon as I'm fired, he enters the portal or he says, I'm not playing this year. I'm going to redshirt. That way I don't lose an eligibility status. He can do that. You know, we saw that last year with MJ Morris at NC State. Wasn't feeling comfortable with the program, said, you know what's best for me? Sitting out the rest of the year, then I'm going to go transfer. He did. He didn't want to burn his red shirt. Now he's got 2 extra years at Maryland. Maybe that's the case that you look at DJ, so you got to get him out there. What I thought was really interesting, let me get your thoughts on this, Dave. He talked about the faith of the team, and I think that faith is going to be a big deal because I'm not trying to get into religious nonsense, religious politics or anything along those lines. What I'm trying to get into is that there has to be an internal faith that, yes, just like Billy walking up to that stage saying, I am confident that this team is the best we are, that they also believe, I am confident, even though we are down by 2 scores, with 7 minutes left, we can win by 2 scores.
Yeah. No, you're just talking about like leads, like a big lead?
No, I'm talking about if they had to come back or they have a lead and they don't want to blow it, like we saw last year with the errant miscommunication. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. The Utah opening special teams, they get Utah off the field immediately. Yeah.
It happened in spring. That's the thing is that
they brought in a special teams guy from the Patriots, if I'm right. Sorry, Florida fans, if you're listening, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but Billy mentioned that today. But I remember when they brought somebody in from a special teams standpoint.
I thought it was great that he at least admitted that they need to make some defensive switches. He brought in the guy from Bowling Green, the defensive back coach that had been there for, 2 decades. So the experience is going to be really big. I think
Ron Roberts is a veteran. Yeah. Remember he hired Austin Armstrong, who had a cup of coffee at Alabama as the inside backers coach for like a month. It kind of seemed, this is just looking at it from 35,000 feet, probably a little. I think Austin's only like 28. Like probably
he's the youngest co-defense coordinator.
Yeah, probably too much for him initially to go be an SEC coordinator. I mean, everybody knows, ever watches him. He coached my cousin at Southern Miss. Very aggressive. It comes from the Kirby Smart tree, was I think an analyst at Georgia at one point. But it kind of maybe seemed a little too much for him. Billy brings in the vet from Auburn, Ron Roberts. So maybe have somebody under. I'll be interested to see how that cohesion works there a little bit. I'll be interested to see how that works on defense. But you're right. I think the personnel's improved. They got the kid from Penn. It's pretty good. I saw Jim Nagy. I was watching him earlier. What's that kid's name? I had their depth chart right here. Joey Slackman, the grad transfer from Penn. It looks like
a linebacker, right?
D-tackle.
D-tackle. That's it.
From Penn, from the Ivy League. But no, I mean, I'm with you. The roster's better. There's no other. The schedule for them, he mentioned it. It's got to be broken up, and you'd agree with this, I think, Cole. It's got to be broken up in 4 games, dude. Thursday.
I would say so.
You got to go 3 and you tell me if I'm wrong here. Realistically, I think you got to go 3-1 in your first 4 against Miami, Samford, A&M, and State and Mississippi State. I think that's doable.
That's fair, and that's doable. Very doable. Yeah. I think undefeated is doable.
Then I think you got to break it up into another 4 game with a bye week sandwich in UCF at Tennessee, Kentucky at home, Georgia. I think you in a perfect world you'd like to go 2-2.
I think that's fair.
If you went 3-1, you're ecstatic.
If you're 3-1 at that point, all you need is one more game to guarantee you're in a bowl game. And I think at that point, you guarantee that you
maybe at 6 then. If they went 3-1 to start the first 4,
you may already be in a bowl game.
Yeah, they'd be 6-2 rolling in the month of November. Shoot, they'd be the talk of. Depending who they lost to, still in the conference championship race. Then obviously comes November, which Georgia was somewhat of that. That was the back half, that 4th one. And then, you tell me, realistically, as we sit here on July 17th, what is realistic here? Because I think 2-2 in that second 4. So that puts them at 5. And then your last 4, at Texas, LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, at Florida State. Can you go get one of those last 4 if you're sitting there rolling into that 5-3, 5-5? Yeah, 5-2. Yep.
Or you're 5-2 or you're 5-3 at that point.
Correct. Can you go get one more out of those last 4? You think? I mean,
can you? That's the thing.
Cole, I've never asked you. Are you a Florida State guy this year heading into the season?
No, I'm not. Now,
I'm not really either. The preseason magazine we ended up putting them in the playoffs. I didn't. I had Miami winning the ACC. I'm just not a big DJU guy. I shouldn't say I'm not. I still want to be sold on him. I don't know if DJU's. I mean, I appreciate him not going to ACC media days. That was a humble thing he did.
I think that was a smart move. I think the other smart move is that you're getting a quarterback that you've already studied if you're Mike Norvell. So you already know what are the do's and don'ts of the offense and where you're seeing improvement. So, yeah, I can believe that. I believe the ACC is going to be the best conference in college football this year when it comes to variety. Like, as much as we talk about the Big 12, I think the ACC is going to be really interesting because NC State added in some good players. I think Virginia Tech is finally going to be right back in action. I like what I've seen from Miami on paper. But
Clemson's going to be pretty good.
Clemson still is around. They have the second best odds. Florida State's still there. So they're going to be a fun conference to watch.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech 100%. But my question is, can you get that win like you should have last year? Because the other part that's really interesting is that Billy Napier is 2 games away in back-to-back years from really changing the entire persona about him. Because if you don't have a bad showcase with miscommunication on special teams, do you march into Rice Eccles and get a win over Utah? On top of that, you have the 4th and 17 game against 4th and 17 against Mizzou. You get this stop. You win that game. 4th quarter, you're in it against Florida State, and then you don't even have to worry about undefeated. And the year before, you had the same type of persona where, again, Florida State come down. You felt good. Then unfortunately, ran away with it. Then also, you had the earlier game after the must-see spectacle that was the victory over Utah in the Swamp. We're talking about 2 games each year to where instead of being 6-6, he's 8-4 and he's 7-5.
Yeah, the first year Utah, the loss that kills me, the Vandy loss is the ugly loss.
The Vandy loss is the one, yeah. But you're 8-4 and 7-5 instead of 5-7 and 6-6.
Yeah.
We're talking about Billy Napier in a completely different spectrum, and maybe that's why I'm a little bit more sheepish whenever he says we're right on course, we're staying the course, we're projected to do what we're doing this year. We see the sense and direction. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit more, I'd say, lackadaisical when he says those things, because he's not wrong. You're a handful of plays away in back-to-back seasons from having a completely different persona about you. And maybe it's the same way that I feel about Graham Mertz. Maybe with Graham Mertz last year, because I'm going to make this abundantly clear. Graham Mertz, in my opinion, had one blundering mistake in the Mizzou game. And besides that, he did nothing to lose any of those games. He was a reason that they stayed in games, in my opinion. So when I look at Mertz, are we talking about him as now not just a middle-tier quarterback in the SEC, but actually right alongside the Jackson Darts, the maybe not Quinn Ewers or Carson Becks, but maybe the Jalen Milrose, the Brady Cooks? Are we talking about him that way because of the way the schedule is? So I do think that there is a good shot. Everyone wants to already just write in permanent marker that, yes, we are going to see a win against that Miami's going to walk into the Swamp and get a win. I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to do that.
In my preseason schedule, I put it, but I'm with you. As this game gets closer, I'm with you.
And maybe you'll know this from your background in athletics. When you look, is it going to mean something if Florida were to say be 6-6, but they're 3-0 in the state?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that would be a big beat Miami and Florida State. Again, I don't think Florida fans give much of a crap about UC. No offense. I mean, I worked there. They didn't. We beat them that year in a bowl game, but I don't think they really do. But again, you're right. I think that could help. You're 6-6 and went 3-0 against your in-state. Yeah. I mean, I think people, I would say fired up because they're 500, but yeah, I think that is almost another win in their head. It almost gives you the 7th win in their head from being
It's a win for recruiting, in my opinion.
Correct. Yeah. No, 100%. I'd agree with that.
Any more thoughts before we get on out of here?
Really, no. I mean, no. I think we hit on all of it. I mean, I was looking at it again just to plug our guys, pay some bills here. I mean, my bookie guys, go check them out. The Florida win total, season win total is at 4.5 right now. So that's a steal. Yeah, I would too. I think they're right at that 5-6. So guys, if you want to go bet the over under 4.5 season win total for the Florida Gators, go visit our guys, my bookie. Use that code SECU. But For myself, Dave Shumate, my buddy Cole Thompson, remember, go give him the follow at Mr. Cole Thompson. This is a reaction to Billy Napier's press conference on day 3 of SEC Media Days. We got one more, and it's the other new kid on the block. We saw Brent Venables yesterday, but Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns will be on the podium, and we will react immediately after. Until then, guys, have a great afternoon.